feel like doing this makes me
we're
look.
live. We are live. We are live. We are live.
Hello, hello,
Hello,
hello.
everyone.
Hello.
How are we?
Good. Happy.
Already
So
in a
we
really
do that
weird
thing which
mood.
you guys did so nicely.
Already literally
Um,
been back to work for 3 days and I already feel frazzled. Oh,
well, you probably already also had your brain smushed a little bit by this book.
yeah, a little bit.
Just a little bit. Yes, Tufty, we are dancing. I mean,
here
we need a little bit.
I'm
We need a
trying
little
not
bit of
to.
light.
We love to party.
I mean, there was. This was a very dark book, so we need a bit of light this time.
Yep.
But
Yep.
we
It
just
does
go.
have
We
a
just.
happier ending though than the previous
It
one.
does.
It does. I
Yeah.
will agree
It
with that.
does. So for anyone who's coming in right now or has never watched me or Chels before, we run a book club called It's All About Fantasy. We are here with Mahir today from the Fantasy Book Critic. He's one of the reviewers. Hello, back again to talk about another book, and I'm so excited. And we have the book 2 in the Ties That Bind series, The Colour of Vengeance, and I love this because this is also a scene from the book, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I was like, as soon as I read it, and I was like, oh my god, that's the cover.
Yes.
That's the scene.
I love it so much.
For
So
the viewers, Blackthorn, Henry, and Anders, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
These devilish dark jackal creatures.
I was so happy about that.
Those laughing dogs are weird.
This, oh my god.
Yeah.
Yeah, check me out. I'm dancing.
Have you seen his other comment going, do we need to get Chels a copy of the book? Because you're all there like with your books, and I'm like, then I have the book.
Hello. So we'll go straight in with what rating, if you were what rating did you give it? Charles, we'll start with you.
I gave it 4 stars because apparently I'm super harsh for everything. And I was there reading it and I was like, I think part of it as well was because Mia last time went, you're going to give it 5 stars. You're going to love this one more. And I did. I really did. Like, it's top end 4 stars. But there's just something about me that's like, I don't know what it is, but I think I was sat there going, but it's not Eska.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't found a character that I love as much as her.
Have you not?
Not even Henry? That's surprising.
She grew on me throughout
Yes.
the whole book.
I love
It
her
grew on
so
me.
much.
But yeah.
Here, what did you rate it?
Oh, this is a 5 out of 5 for me. This is straight over 5 out of 5 for me. This was, I think, if I'm not wrong, this was my top rated book or my favorite book of 2013 when I did the best of 2013 lists.
Yeah.
This was, especially after coming after the Heresy Within, which was like a 4.5 out of 5.
Mm-hmm.
This was like I loved all of it, and including what he did with Henry, because in book 1, even I hated Henry because you just see this like horrible person who's stabbing people and who's angry all the time, and who's angry with Jesset as well, right? Because we all love Jesset so much.
Yeah. Oh my god. Yeah.
And then we get a viewpoint into her, and then you're like, oh, wait, she's not bad. I mean, she's still a stabby, she's still murderous, but she's not bad.
She's still stabby.
So yeah,
We like stabby.
5 stars for me. For everyone, if you haven't read it, get into this series.
And I rated it 5. I rated it a 5. I was just Jesus Christ. I was just like, it was everything I wanted from a book and more. And I was just, it made me cringe. It made me cry. I was shooketh at parts. And I was just like, I was shooketh. And then it went dark. And then but it was still also soft in places. And I don't know how the hell he does it. Like, how?
Yeah.
I literally, the respect I respected him as an author anyway.
Yeah.
Especially after reading the first book. But then how does he, like, Oh, we'll go into it a bit more. I'm speechless. 4 stars. I enjoyed the first book a wee smidge more. Oh, surprising.
I do agree with this comment that he made.
It felt more linear. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that might be why. Maybe that's why he preferred the first one to the second one. I'm not sure. But for me, it made me cringe a lot. This book. It made me shout in my car quite a lot. This book. I sat there going, no.
We start the book like, oh, afternoon, Bo. Hello. I don't know why I said it in a really shitty American accent. I was like hey, Bo. Like, I'm not. Anyway, never mind. We start the book and poor Blackthorn.
Yes.
I'm just like, you are a bad guy, but I feel so bad for you. Like, you are burnt and scarred, and you've had your eye taken out.
Yep.
You're tied down in this fucking room.
You got fingers chopped off.
He was tortured at the end of the heresy with him. That was like the one sad part about the climax. You know, both Jezet and Thanquil had good, like kind of like good endings, so to speak. But Blackthorn was tortured and captured, so that was really horrible. But in this book, he gets his moment to shine. Chelsea, I want to ask you. You said there's a lot of you felt like you cringed a lot. Like, was it like you're cringing at the worst, like the horrific moments, or was it just because of something being weird, or just because of the action and whatever violence was going on?
No, it was the shouty bits were mainly like when the torture scene was happening. You know, when they're torturing, and I know that's like not at the beginning. It's like towards like the back end of the book, really. But where he's like crunching his thumb and pulling his nails out.
No.
That was me right there. That was me the whole time. I was just like, this is
The thing is, like, I have false nails, and I know what it's like when you accidentally rip a nail off. Yeah. And that's when I've done that accidentally, and it's more like it's like a quick rip. It stings at the time, but it's painful. But having it done slowly, I was like the thing. I don't know what. Like, my whole body was just like, ugh.
Yeah. 100%. I do think as well that from like the more descriptive points of this book, I did enjoy the fact that there was less of the sex stuff.
Yeah.
Obviously there is one part with Henry and Anders, and some of it I was going,
yeah. But even that bit, it wasn't. It was kind of like it sort of was a thing, then they moved on. It wasn't like a massive descriptive long sex scene. It was just kind of like, but it again, that sounds really strange.
When they're just met each other, that's the weird part. Like they don't even know that much, and they just have met.
No, he's literally a drunk on the street. Then she goes, "Okay, you're offering that. Off we go. Let's get sure thing."
This bit at the beginning, I was like, "What is that freaking noise?" Like, I was just like, please, just like, just the whole setup. It really does set the scene, and I could feel myself in that room with him, and like when he was like flitting in and out, and God, I honestly don't know how he survived. Like, he's been through a lot on it.
Yeah,
and the fact that he was like sort of beating himself up, that he'd like lost his muscle and stuff. Like, you've been tortured and like imprisoned for months. Like, you're gonna have lost muscle mass, dude.
Like, lost his life.
I mean, at the start of it as well, when they mentioned about how long he'd actually been there, I was like, wow, fair enough. And I also felt awful for him at the start, because he was, and the whole way through, because he's like, Jezet and Thanquil, they're dead. They're not.
But he doesn't know, right? That's a weird part.
He never knows. Like, for goodness sake.
But he's just like, again, we mentioned this in the first one, like the books are so dark and they are not good people. They literally kill people. And like in like a heroes versus villains stories, these would probably be the villains that you wouldn't be rooting for, but because we're following from their perspective, like, and we know them as a group, and the fact that like he was so happy when he found Henry was alive, and then like finding bones again.
Wasn't that so cool? Like when he discovers that Bones is even like as a reader, I was like so thrilled. I'm like, Bones is alive. Bones isn't dead.
I was like, oh yeah, well we definitely know the boss is dead. Like there's no way the boss will come back from that. If the boss had come back, I'd have been like, nah. But like he still kept some people dead, which makes sense. We don't do the reincarnation thing here. But the fact that like Anders was such an annoying little gnat at first.
I liked Anders. The minute I met Anders, I was like, do you know what? I think I like you quite a lot. There is something about you that you're not saying, and do you know what? You want to stay drunk? Why? Why do you want to stay drunk? What's so wrong with you?
Why did I want to fix him? Why did I just want to fix him? Like, it's okay.
Did you guys catch Anders from the Heresy Within? Did you remember his cameo in the Heresy Within?
No.
I did not as well. So for our viewers as well, Anders though technically appears in this book, but if you remember, when in the Heresy Within, when Jezet had gone to the ball with Thanquil, and when Thanquil is like, keep them busy, and he goes upstairs, and then Jezet is talking to someone, and a drunk person comes up to her, talks to her, and she then, because then that's when what's her name, the ugly lady comes and tries to kill her, and she jumps out of the window using somebody as not a punching bag, but just somebody to land on.
Yeah.
Anders.
No way.
Yes, and the weird part is he technically died in the Heresy Within because he got squashed. But then how is he alive, and what's he doing over here? That's like it took me a reread to recognize that. I was like, wait a second, this guy was dead in the first book. What's happening over here?
And that's what he means by that guy saved his life. He saved his life then. Is that what?
It must be, yeah.
Oh, the connection.
Weird part about Anders. The reason why he wants to stay drunk, and as you know, when you read the book, like he's related to those blooded people, but he doesn't really reveal why and what and everything. But he's a slippery fish, and he's very slippery. Even the more you go into the series, the more confused you are by Anders. And like Chelsea, he's one of my favorite characters in the sense that I don't trust him. Like in the real life, I would run away from him because I would be too scared of what he would do. But he's fun to read about because you never know. You just never know what's he doing, where is he coming from.
I feel like Anders would be the sort of person that I was friends with at uni. That you're like, I only see you at night because you're good fun, and we'll go out and we'll have a good time, we'll have a party and stuff. And then at the end of the night, you say good night, and then you go about your day and you go back to normal life, and you don't see them again until you go to the club again. That's that sort of friend.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think Tufty has just mentioned a really nice comment as well about him.
I'll have a look at I cringed at some of the courses of the first book, but the brutality of the second one was more oof. Talk to see even now thinking my fingers are just like just the thought of it. I am with Chels. That's why I meant by courses. It was more of a focus in book one and became just a thing. I didn't realize initially that Thanquil had been there for so long. I had expectations of it being days rather than months.
You mean
you mean Black Phone?
A few weeks.
Yeah.
Now kind of got squashed is the next one as well.
Yep, the guy who got squashed. That's him. And nobody can, like, as far as I know, none of us are supposed to even know that. Like, he doesn't mention what his name is. He just comes up to Jezet and talks like in a slurry manner. So you don't really, and then he dies. Like you're like,
he dies.
But in the second, because when I read him, I'm like, oh, Anders is really cool, and I was rereading him, like, wait a second, this guy sounds similar. And then of course I confirmed with Rob as well. He says, yeah, that's Anders, and he still won't tell me how did he come back from the dead. So that's Rob.
Maybe it's one of those things we will just never know. We'll only be able to speculate on.
Probably, unless he finishes the remaining 6 books that he plans to write, So
6 more books.
Yes.
Jeez Louise.
Yeah, we'll talk about the trilogy at the end. Like we'll talk about the books in the end, like how many more books. But the story is complete in whatever books he's released. But yeah, he has like a grand 12-book plan for the first Earth saga, of which these 3 are just the opening salvo.
My God, this man can literally just write, and I don't understand. But so we meet people that we've met before. So we get Henry, we've got a new guy, Anders, we meet Thorn again. And then this really unique character, Mr. Jacob Lee. And there's the picture. And I know from the get-go, he's obviously kind of crazy.
Yeah, there's something not quite right there.
Something not quite right in his brain for him to be like locked up the way he is, but not like shackled. And it's like, we'll let you out, but you need to come back. And I'm just like, who is this guy? And the way that he just is so brutal, but just so blasé about how brutal he is.
Because he likes the music.
Yes.
My God, the music. That was so good.
It was a little
bit. Kind of like the Terminator. You don't get in his way because he will literally demolish you as he goes to where he wants. And they have kind of given him the target, like Blackthorn, go get him. So he's like, so when I was reading him, I was hearing the Terminator tune in my head, like, dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, I think the minute that you kind of meet him and he's let out, so as you're following him when they're like, go get Blackthorn, and he's like just on his way to find him, and you just watch all of this like brutality that didn't need to happen. Like the first instance is when he's at the dock and he's like just grabbing someone and essentially manages to like crush their shoulder, and he's like, where are they going? And the poor guy's like, I don't know. Then
I know.
guy just rocks up, and obviously we don't know until he says that he's the master of the dock or whatever they're called. And even before he talks, like Jacob's like, I'm gonna hurt you for no reason. Like, he's giving you information and you're making him hurt so much that he can't even talk to you. Where is the logic?
I think Tufty's mentioned this as well. Like, in the books he's mentioned, he said he's a Templar, which is like a unique thing which we haven't been told about before.
Yeah.
Third is that it's a special kind of warrior besides the arbiters who are like the witch hunters. But Templar is like a warrior which is made, and I think during the making, Jacob Lee, his mind went off, which is why he behaves the way he behaves, and which is why I think when we get introduced to him, they've kept him in a cell. Even the arbiters are scared around him. They're like, this is your mission. Here are your parameters. Go, and then they just like get out of the way. So he's meant to be this chaotic.
I feel like he's Frankenstein's monster. Like he's the one that went wrong.
Yeah.
So they've obviously tried to create these better arbiters, and then along the line they tried to meddle with natural selection, and they done messed up. And Jacob was created, and it does mention later on in the book that something obviously snapped in him when they were doing that, and then obviously this is where the music in his brain, in his head, comes from.
Yeah,
but it kind of makes sense. He keeps referring back to Sarah, doesn't he? Which is his his wife.
His wife.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And obviously she liked to play the flute or something. She was very musical.
Musical, yeah.
And obviously he's kind of correlated the snap with that part, because he's throughout the whole book he's constantly talking about Sarah and her smile and remembering her, and then
I knew that something would have happened to her.
And the minute that, like, further on in the book, because it mentions it, I think, once or twice before, he says about her being on the floor saying please, and it kind of gives off the idea of it being a little bit naughty, but it's not, because then he kind of the fog kind of clears a little bit towards the end of the book, and he's like, actually, she was begging please, more in a like, I'm pretty
Don't
sure
kill me.
you were killing her or stabbing her or something not right, and that's what it actually is. It's not what we've insinuated for the whole book.
Yeah, and I do love that slow reveal of like, obviously you meet him and he mentions this Sarah, and he does mention her in past tense, and you kind of think, well, clearly something's happened to her. Either something's happened to her and he's snapped, and this is what's caused him to do this, and someone else has done this to them, to her, or as you get further on, I was like, is it him that's done something to her? And like, and then obviously you sort of reveals, and I do love that slow reveal, and when he finally shows the reader exactly what happened to her, and I'm like, this guy is even more dangerous than we thought.
He is scary.
Can I reveal a little bit of the lore though? Is it okay if it's not from the book? And this is just me from reading the other future books. So the Templar, from what I've read in the future books, and from again, this is bugging Rob. He has kind of had to reveal it to me. So I think the Arbiters, the organization, is like hundreds or maybe centuries old. I think in the past, when before the demons were, as they're captured, by their Volmar, or just after during that time, I think what had happened was there's other creatures whom they were hunting, like the Drur, which is kind of made a slight mention of. Or
Yeah.
I don't know, they're not like elves, but there's something similar to elves-ish, like they're not human, but there's something else. And I think what the arbiters couldn't deal with them, so they created a special process of creating a special warrior called Templars, who were super successful. You know, like they're like the Terminators, like they will do their mission and stuff like that. But then I think that process got lost, or not enough people were talented enough to become Templars, so they kind of have few or maybe even just one left, and I think that's Jacob Lee. I don't think that's revealed, but I think you might get more information, you know, in the latter books or series as well, just for those people who are interested.
Yeah.
Why we are also shocked, because it is very shocking the way Jacob goes about in the entire book.
Yeah, you know that he's not like a normal arbiter when they send him off, but you because you obviously at this point you don't know anything about Templars. You just know that he's different and he's stronger than he should be as a normal human, and there's something different about him, but it's just slowly revealed along the book, which I really love. Aren't there 6 books already?
6 books.
I've seen mention of the bound folio, which follows book 3.
It is short stories, and those short stories have character. It showcases characters in various timelines. So there's a short story about the character of Green, who was there in the first book but got killed.
Yeah,
but you can see his prequel, and there's like a couple more characters who you don't really recognize, but they are kind of mentioned of. Like there's a princess or a girl who gets married to a princess, so it's this thing. But Bound Folio is just fun to read if you're interested in this world. It gives you further insight into the world of
I do like that though, when because it is an expansive world, and they do obviously travel and mention other people. And what I do like as well is that he does travel scenes, or like they're traveling, but it doesn't feel like, oh my god, we're traveling from A to B. Like things happen, like there's other parts of the plot going on while they're getting from A to B. Like it's not just travel sequences, which I really do love about this as well.
Yeah.
I love the powered by the runes on his skin, the Terminator description. Yeah, I did love that. But also, we are reintroduced to another character, Mr. Swift.
Mr. Swift.
Yes.
Mr. Swift. Oh God.
He's back as the villain.
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't an enjoyable character in the first one, to be honest.
No,
but he wasn't as how do I put it?
Praising maybe as abrasive or as villainous, because you don't really get to see inside of his thoughts. Here you just kind of, I mean, you don't get to see the inside, but you get to see his actions and how cruel he is.
Yeah, and how easily he was just like, oh well, they're all dead, or like, I mean, Henry wasn't even dead at this point. Like he tortured and assaulted her like that. When I found that out, I was just like, obviously, we knew something had gone on between him. But then when, like, because Henry was like wanting to get him back, and like, every time he was mentioned, she had a reaction. But the fact that like she'd been through that, and he'd basically left her for dead, and after they'd been together for so long, like they were all supposed to be friends, and he's just like, all that happened at the end of book 1, and he just let his villain error just take over, didn't he? It was just like, I'm going to care about absolutely nobody. I'm just going to look after me and just like take all this money. And I was just, like I said, he wasn't the nicest person in book 1, but because generally they're loyal to each other in those kinds of groups, aren't they?
Yeah. You're not good people, but you don't hurt your own.
Yeah, you don't hurt your own. Like I know that the whole book, Thorne was trying to say like we're not like a group. We're not a group.
Yeah.
We're not a crew. Like we're not. Stop it. But
we're not going to make a band.
They are a crew. They are a band of
I think
friends.
The threat of Bones, the boss, and the Thorn kind of kept him in check, like for Swift, because he probably had those thoughts back then as well. But just because Bones was there, Thorn was there, and the boss, whom everybody was scared of, was there.
Yeah.
He joked about it, but he didn't really do anything, because there's a couple of scenes in the Heresy where he says, I had my way with the boss's daughter, which of course it's not really the boss's daughter, but he kind of says, and then Henry kind of spits at him again in that scene as well, because it's implied that he has like raped her, that person, without her knowing. So he really hates that, and you kind of can see that. But I think you don't really know like if Swift is telling the truth or lies. But in here, you really see that he is as evil as he thought.
Yeah, and like he shows literally no remorse either, does it? And even kind of joke. I don't know how you can joke about that, but like jokes about taking Henry back and like how she really like that whole thing made me feel so uncomfortable. But I'm although it was uncomfortable to read and it was like a really difficult topic to read. It's kind of good that because a lot of times in fantasy books, the villain there's always like an excuse or a kind of a redemption arc, and I like it when a villain is just a villain, and no rhyme or reason why they're there. They just do it and they don't care. And I did like that he stuck to his guns with this one, and like Swift was the villain, and he gives no cares whatsoever about what happened to anybody else because he was just selfish, and he stuck to that. And although it was difficult to read, I'm glad that he was still that way, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
it does. Yeah.
No, I agree.
He's also a product of his circumstances, right? Like he's Swift is like an abandoned kid who was brought up in a brothel, so he wasn't really exposed to good morals. Not that there aren't good morals in this world, but probably got even worse morals. And his mom and everything, he probably, and again, it's inferred, it's not really revealed, but it's inferred that he and his sister Rose, they are also the product of a sexual assault, if I'm not wrong, or like his mother said, the blood-in-law just had his way, but that's what is implied as well. So that kind of probably not excusing his actions now, but probably that kind of messed up his head as well. And of course, there's nothing like with Blackthorn and Henry. I mean, more so Blackthorn. I feel like he has this innate sense of not niceness, but heroic, like some sort of heroic nature to him. Like he won't kill randomly. He'll still murder, he'll still murder people, but he has some lines which he will not cross. Swift never had those lines. He was never taught those lines, and of course, the worse he got, the more he was applauded, or the more the name he got his name. So I think that kind of spurred him on. And of course, now when he thinks he's only lone survivor, so he's like, yeah, I can do whatever I want, and that's probably what he did with Henry too. So watching him get his comeuppance is so nice.
So satisfying.
Good to read about.
It really is, to be honest.
I liked Swift in book 1, but it was proper evil in book 2. Yeah, well.
Yeah, really was.
There are so many characters in this tale who are not nice people that I really like Thorne and Henry. Yeah, and I think with Thorne and Henry though, like again, they live in a world where you can tell like they've been through shit. Like they've clearly all been through their own things.
Yeah.
And they're just dealing with the cards that they're going with what they've been dealt. Like they're just making the most of what they've got. And the fact that like even though when they find each other, like the emotions, the feelings that they have towards each other, and I really like the fact that they sort of initially joked about like when they slept together and she stabbed him and stuff, and then as the book went on, she actually said she didn't think of Thorne like that anymore. And I was just like, I'm so glad that like they found another sort of affection for each other. Like they're actually genuinely just care for each other, and they're solid. And because I'm like a friendship thing, because obviously she has Anders, even though he's a drunken mess. And like I'm glad that it didn't pursue a Henry and Thorne plotline, because I feel like that would have muddied the waters. I like the fact that it's just people that care about each other, like their friendship. They slept together once, it was no big deal, she stabbed him, whatever. But it's like they're now friends, and it's like an actual just like I'm a soppy git for friendships. Like I love that.
It was. And it's fun to read about them kind of forming their own gang, with Thorne, Henry, Anders, and also when we talk about Burns Sisko, he was also another like really favorite character of mine. The Harin becoming the Hanin. I mean, was it Hanin becoming the Harin?
The Harin becoming the Han. Yeah.
Burns Sisko, I love him. I just love him.
Yes. When we first met him, like, let me just go through his comments first. I was very happy with Swift what was coming to him.
Yes, right.
I had not expected to. That's so much fun to read. Yeah. It was really on having a book with no chapters, a couple of parts, but otherwise there was continuous viewpoint changes.
See, I didn't like that because I was listening to it audibly And I'm guessing, Lisa, you probably doing both, weren't you? Listening and reading.
Yeah. So the chapters are kind of like the different
The
perspectives.
names,
The name. Yeah.
So it's like this. You just put Thorn and then the chapter begins.
Okay, yeah, I can get that. To be fair, I did find as well in the audiobook that it, because I didn't realize that that's how it was broken up. I was like, this seems to jump pretty quick between points. Like usually when you listen to an audiobook, it's usually like the last line, then there's like a couple of seconds of breath, and then it starts. But it was literally like last line, Thorn.
Yeah.
Henry.
Yeah.
Jesus, I'm getting whiplash.
I actually like that as well. There was an innate trust between Thorn and Henry, which I like a bunch. We'll get onto that in a second, Tough Death, but like, dude. But yeah, the Harrin, like when we met him, and they were all about honor, and all this kind of stuff, and I was just like, why couldn't we just protected someone decent? Like, and the fact that she's saying, I'm Harrin, and I know, but he was, and I do get he was like bound by his honor, and he didn't want to, be like caused like be disgraced and stuff. I really just wanted him to turn around to Swift and just like stab him. Like, I was just like,
well. I mean, he didn't exactly do that at the end, did he? But far off, really.
But
but he walked away, because the fact that he walked away that's why Henry could do what he did. Otherwise, he was like the physical shield which Swift was counting upon. And but I like that. It was a really nice mirror, because as evil as Swift is, the Harren Burns Cisco is equally good. Like you get really get like this is the most perfect good and evil comparison in this world. I feel like where you have this noble character and forced to protect this horrific evil guy, and he's doing it because of his oath, and that's what he's been trained to do. So
and like the way that you can kind of understand why he's like that as well, because he does agree to a bunch of detail. And again, I don't know how, like, we don't see much from his perspective. And we just see him obviously when he's with Swift. We meet him a bit before, because it sort of explains a little bit about him beforehand. But it's the fact that the brief bits that we do get to see about him, it makes you like him, and it makes you want to root for him to do good. And even when it says like he was struggling when he'd see Swift do bad things, and like he sort of started to resent the fact that he was like involved in that. Like by not doing anything, he was like involved, and like that sort of that would have like torn him apart inside, sort of thing. Like, because he is a noble person, he wants to like adhere to his oath, but this guy is just the worst human possible.
He even says that, doesn't he? At one point, he says how bad Swift is, and
he does that again.
And it's just like, well, at least you see it. Was my thought process at that point. I was like, well, at least you can actually see that. I get that you're bound by your oath to protect this person. However, like that doesn't mean that you stop seeing all the terrible things that they are doing. And I know we've said that like in this world everyone's not exactly great and stuff, and I think Perrin is the one difference in this book. He's, like you said, he's just the epitome of goodness, really. And it's quite nice to see, but also it does make you think as well, like if all these characters went through not necessarily similar training, because he went through training, but maybe a more sheltered upbringing, would they too also have turned out similarly? It seems as though he has not, apart from obviously going through his training, it doesn't seem as though he's experienced any hardship or tragedy, really. Obviously he gets taken away from his parents very young when they decide that they're going to train them, but in that way of life you don't know any different. So it's not as though he's going through tragedy after tragedy.
That protected him, from the horribleness of this world, because that's what happened with all of them, right? Henry, Swift, Blackthorn as well. This world is, I think, this world is also a thing which kind of rewards bad behavior and punishes
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
If you are kind, if you are noble, you will die a swift death. But if
Yeah.
you are
Yeah.
duplicitous, you are cruel. At least the settings, or at least one part of the world where the wilds,
Yeah.
especially if they are located, that will actually reward you, and we kind of see that as well, right? I mean, but the one good thing was like all of the characters, even though this is like such a slim book and it is so fast paced, all of them went through like character transformations. Like Blackthorn emerged a new
Yeah.
person,
Yeah.
Henry emerged a new person, Anders, well, new person, died and came back. Pern became a new person, you know. Even well, I don't want to say Jacob Lee became a new person, but he at least he went from like what we know, and then he became slightly different as well. And then to Tufty's point, Bones as well. He kind of became a new person, but you know, we didn't really enjoy what he did.
Yeah. 10 years of a notice. That's true after a few months. So true.
Worrying, isn't
So
it, really?
true. I've accepted a new job in the past and realised I've taken a bum steer on day one. Can you imagine?
What does that mean, bum steer? Is that like a UK thing?
Made a bad decision.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Could you be cruel to prosper in this world? I would not be able to survive. I wouldn't. I don't think I'd.
We all probably would be dead.
We say this, right? But if we were raised in this world, we
wouldn't know any better.
I would be a badass like Henry. Gotta be honest. Like
Yeah.
I'm gonna
I would
find
wanna
an
be.
old lady who doesn't want to run her pub anymore, and I'm gonna run it.
That was Ace. Just like, and she just gave me a pub.
Yeah, literally. I was just like,
she's just like, are you on this?
In the back of my mind, though, I was like, did she give it to you or did you take it? Like, let's be, like, she just walked out one day. Like, she told the other guy who worked there, "This is Henry's now. See you." Where did she go? Because there doesn't seem to be like a Costa Rica in this world. Where did she go?
Well, there are islands though, on the far west of the world, which might be like Costa Rica. We don't know though.
You don't know, yeah. But we do like obviously meet Bones again. But what I do want to mention before we get to that bit is these meeting Anders's family.
Yeah.
We know from the beginning that he's blooded, and just by the way he talks, and I love the bit that made me laugh was like when he was really annoying people by correcting the grammar and stuff. And Thorne's like, "What do you mean? What?"
Yeah. Also,
so
like when he's saying like these fancy words as Thorne says, and he's like, "We're going to compromise," and Thorne's like, "Yeah, we're going to concise or something," and he's like, "No, you mean compromise?" And he's like, "What does that mean?" What do they mean?
I don't know this fancy speak.
It's too good. You know, they're like, you know, how Anders is like he's not second in command, but he's like, "I'll be your butler / helpsman boss, and whatever you tell me." But then he's like, he obviously knows more, and he's correcting Blackthorn more.
He's saying all these posh, wonderful words, and everyone's just looking at him like, "What do these things mean?"
No matter how many times Thorne's like, "I'm not your boss." He's like, "Yes, boss. Got your boss. I'm made for your boss. I'm following your boss," and he's like, "I'm not your boss."
Yeah.
But you can tell that like Anders slowly wore Thorne down. Like obviously Henry was just immediately like, "He's mine. I'm taking him with me. He's coming along." Whereas Thorne took a bit to warm to him. But then you kind of like they couldn't just leave him, even if he was not fully honest about why he was there.
Yeah.
Like it was like, "Oh, you're part of us now." Like and I
he
think
even tries to get rid of him right at the start of the relationship. When he goes to see that, like, basically he's like a gang leader, essentially, wasn't he? And it's just like, "We're going to keep you, man." And he was like, "Sure. I only met him today. Go on. I don't even like him." And then Anders is like, "You don't like me."
Oh, yeah. No, like...
It's like a puppy.
It sounds... Yeah, but it sounds so weird, but at parts I did laugh at this book.
I laughed at Anders. A lot of things Anders said, I was like, "That's funny. That's funny." Especially when they're like in the middle of the hall, meeting going back to his family.
The breakaway.
there's all these women, and he's like, well, I remember what you look like on your back, and I remember what you look like. And his brother's like, that's my wife, and he was like, shoot, well, ask her.
Just shut up, and he still will
Yeah.
not shut up.
Yeah. And he's like, well, didn't you notice that she had a little bit more skill than she should have, and all these like little like digs, and I was just like, man, you're funny.
I'm like, you are gonna get yourself killed just for.
But that's what he wanted. He didn't want. I don't think he ever wanted to carry on. At every point, he's like, either I will drink myself to death,
exactly,
or I'm going to actually get someone to physically end me because my life is in shambles, and what else can I do?
Speaking of grammar, how do you folks find it? The effective speech style and dialogue. Right.
Pacifism.
Would you just stop using big effing words?
I liked it because it kind of it was similar to what the characters spoke or how they spoke in book one. Like all of these, except for maybe Anders and Pern, maybe none of them have been taught grammar or like how to speak proper, as they say.
Yeah.
So the way they were speaking made like complete sense, and they continued it on in that way as well. It's only when Anders comes in, like he'll try to polish them or at least say a few extra things. And Pern, of course, he spoke in a very measured, like he's almost like a Japanese samurai. I know it doesn't fit in this world, but like his,
he gave me that vibe too.
Like with the way he spoke, he would speak like in small sentences, very clear. So I like that. Like I have no complaints from this book. I'm just sorry.
See, I think I need to read the third one physically and possibly audibly as well to kind of get that feel, because when because I've just listened to the first two books audibly, you don't get that because it's just a narrator.
Yeah. How did you find that? What did you think of the narration? Because
I really like the narrator. I think they did a really, really good job on both books that I've listened to so far.
Yeah.
My only complaint is that there are differentiations between our main characters, and then when you get the side characters that are not necessarily just people in a crowd, they have a name and they have more to say. There are instances where quite a few of them just sound the same, and I was like, I'm getting a little bit muddled. Maybe I should read this a little bit more physically, but I think that's just people have so many voices they can make.
I really liked the narrator, and the thing is, me and my friends have had this discussion about actually writing how people would talk, because there's H.C. Newell does it in her book as well. Like the way that the guy's Scottish and the way that he speaks is exactly how it's written. And for me, that just didn't enhance the experience, because in my mind, I know that he's speaking differently, and that he's supposed to have an accent, or he's supposed to not have the best grammar. So, and you all know, like anyone who knows me knows that I like doing voices, so I do the different voices in my head anyway. So it helps me get to grips with the character more. But that's because I see things in my head like movies, and I hear voices.
Not meant to be made on the
internet. When I read people's characters, I think, well, how would these sound? Because I'd have made voices for each character in my head anyway.
Yeah.
If I hadn't listened to it on audio, so that helps me make the voice work with the character, and it just helps build a better experience for me.
I do agree with what Tufty's just said there, and he said Scottish voice written in a style is so hard for me to read. I did struggle with that in the H.C. Newell book. I struggled with it because I was just like, for goodness sake, just stop. But I think that was just But there are points where I can read it. So I not that I have, but I imagine if I was reading these books, because it's just like a grammar thing, it's not as jarring as reading an accent, if that makes sense. I think knowing that, going into a book, maybe knowing, there's going to be like someone who's actually written Scottish, not that the voice actor has made that choice, which is usually what happens. Usually it's just written, and then the voice actor picks a voice and then sticks with it and develops that character that way. With it actually being written as a accent, that I should really look into more and go, maybe this should be an audiobook, because it does kind of take me out of the story sometimes, whereas audibly it builds the experience, because you're like, oh, these are the different factors, these are what the different people sound like, the different places.
Yeah, you could tell he's coming and he's uploaded.
Yeah, or you can tell that he's from the north or he's from the south, or
yes,
you know, just like that. It's also the same in Hill of Heather and Bone, which is one of the Spiffbo 9 finalists. When they go north, they are the north of their country is based on Scotland, so it's also like written Scottish a little bit. So some of it I was like, but everyone else speaks normally. Like, what?
Yeah, I'm not a fan of affected. I think I'm in the minority with that, though. Not gonna lie, I was talking to my friends about it when I was and when it comes to this, I think it's just because my mind works differently to a lot of people's, and
it's the same for anyone. Like, we all read and we all experience things differently, and although I probably give things voices in my head, I don't need the help.
Oh, I do. I found myself saying sentences out loud in their voices just because it made me laugh. That's me.
I've listened to book 1. I haven't heard, like, I have booked it, but I haven't listened to it audibly. So I was just curious about that, because book 1 was, and I think the director is Jarrett Ross. He's new as well, but he's done really well, like, you know, the way he differentiates characters, like you mentioned. Maybe not the side characters, but at least the main characters. Thorn is more gruff. Henry is gruff but feminine, and Thanquil is different. But he's done a good enough job. I'm not much of an audible listener, though. That's why.
Yeah, I think it's also kind of hard though as well, because a lot of these books, although we do have female characters, they're either gruff like Henry or they're overly flirty like Rose. Like, there's no real like in between. Even Jezzet's not really an in between character. She is much more of like the flirty side a little bit when you're listening to her.
She's like fight or fuck, so she goes from gruff to
just kidding. Yeah, and then like all the men are predominantly quite gruff, because a lot of them are from the wilds. So how the heck the narrator did such a good job in the first book when they had like Bones, Boss, Thorn, Thanquil all in the same blinking scenes, and you're just like,
honestly, it's a talent, isn't it?
I know he gets mentioned in this book, but he doesn't really have a role in this. Well, he has a role, but he doesn't really star in this book. But what did you both think about Drake Moras, the pirate? Because I know he gets mentioned, and he's like this legendary pirate, and I know he's going to be playing more important. He's going to be playing like a more and more important role as the series going on. But I just want to get your thoughts on him first before we.
I don't know what to think of him. Like, I did like the fact that when Thorn meets him, he's like, "That's the arbiter that took my eye," and he's like,
"Right, the face."
No, I'm not. And Anders goes, "No, that's the captain." Like, he's not an arbiter. What the heck? And he's like, "No, do you not think I remember the person that took my eye?" and then that obviously sparks the whole mystery of, well, why does the arbiter Keswick look like Drake? Why has that happened? And we still don't really know. But
you will by the end of it. Yeah.
I'm not sure what to think of him, because obviously there is this thing between him and Anders. He saved Anders' life more than once now. So Anders owes him, and like initially it was like, you need to follow Dawn and stick by his side, and we still don't know why this is the thing that he needs to do. Really. But he's just like, the fact that before you probably thought of it more as a chore, whereas now when he thought they'd left him, it was kind of like he was obviously gutted when he thought they'd left him, when it was like, oh, but they're, and it was like they're here, like, and he actually wants to be with them now. So even though he's still being forced technically by the captain, I don't know. I feel like I want him to. I know nobody's good, but I want him to be more on their side than like a Scribd character. I want him to be more that on the morally grey side, not actually villainous. But I'm still unsure at this point.
Yeah, I think it's kind of hard to guess because, like Tufty just said, he was on the scene quite a short time. We didn't really get a good grasp on him as a character. Obviously, he's there before they go and try and pull off this raid with Rose, and then we see him at the end with Anders, and it's just like, right, you have plans in motion, but what exactly are these plans, and more importantly, why? Like, what does this give you? That's my thought. Is like, because no one in this world does anything out of the goodness of their heart, really, do they? Pirate captains definitely do not. So, what is he set to gain? Keeping Anders and Thorn together? What?
He's referenced as well, right? Because he was I think if I'm not wrong, he was referenced just once in the first book, but in this book he kind of gets referenced before his entry. You know, they kind of talk about him. Oh, the pirate Drake Moraz, and then when they're talking in that city where the slave riot happens, they talk about like, he's one of the owners or he has something. But I just felt like I was very intrigued by him when I first read the book. I'm like, okay, why? Who's the? And again, he's there for a very short amount of time, but you see that he has this. Like, he's kind of like. He has a little bit of a charm of like in how what's his name Johnny Depp's character was in the Pirates of the Caribbean, but then you realize as goofy as him, because Johnny Depp's character was goofy, he was funny and goofy. This guy, while he has the charmingness, but he seems to be more dangerous than obviously what Johnny Depp's character was.
It's just that thought of like, what do you stand to gain? That is my biggest question, I think. Where this book leaves off is just like, obviously we also see Jacob right at the end, and he's back in a cell, but he's shackled this time, and he's a bit like he's trying to remember things, but he can't remember it, so it hurts his head. And
that was just like,
who's got him? Am I daft, or did I miss who's got him? Because I don't think they said. They just said that he killed their husband.
Yeah, I think it's Bones, his wife. She was the one who
has him.
I did miss something. That sounds about right.
Because again, she's mentioned in like a very small bit, like because Bones mentions even in the first book that he's scared of his wife, and we don't get to see her until like the very end of the book.
Freaking evil! Like
in the first book, they're all going to whorehouses, and he's like, "Nope, she'd know. Nope."
Yeah, she'd know.
Like, who is this woman, and what is going on? And that when we see her, Jesus Christ. How did Dawn get brainwashed to see the pirate guy? This is what we need to find out.
Yeah.
Like, clearly, is it that thumping noise, that constant thud noise at the beginning? Was that some kind of brainwashing situation, as well as talk like?
If I'm not, it definitely gets revealed in the next book, like because the next book, the Price of Fate, is like the proper ending for this trilogy. So we kind of do get not 100% answer, but like a solid answer, Tufty.
Yeah.
And then there's some ambiguity left, but then the epilogue of the last book, at least it blew away my mind as to what is all happening throughout the trilogy. So I am hoping it will answer all your questions the same way. Like the epilogue of the last book truly shows who is in control. I'll just leave it at that.
Oh,
yeah.
Dun, dun,
dun. Pirate Captain was too short on the scene for me to form an opinion, but he does seem to be heavily involved in all the machinations. True.
Yes.
True. And we need to know what the hell's going on, because people are scared of him. People know his name.
Mm-hmm.
He is like a famed pirate king person, and like not to be messed with. And Anders owes him a debt, which is never a good thing to do. Is to be someone in someone else's debt. Like,
not in this world.
Never. No, not especially. I was favourable to Scribd to begin with, coming from book one, so I assumed the pirate captain was going to be an extra big bad. That as he faced up against Scribd, I found myself adjusting. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm 666. The devil. But yeah, so we're coming on to obviously we mentioned before we came live, but these laughing jackals.
Mm-hmm.
Like the creepy things that are in the wild, like
the laughing dogs, like
the laughing like
how are these things made? Like, what makes them laugh? What's so funny?
Yeah,
that was creepy as hell.
Mm-hmm.
And I just say I the whole time Henry was just so determined to get off that thing that she was tied up against. What's it called? Pole. Like I was just like, come on, Henry, come the whole time.
But was anyone else like right at the start of that going, what the heck is she doing? Because I was going, what are you doing? And it wasn't until
like,
she
right
did it a
foot,
couple
left
more
foot,
times
push.
I went, oh, I understand what you're doing.
She was determined.
Oh god, yeah.
I'm holding up my book.
Yeah.
You can say tough day. But yeah, like, and then was it like the wraiths, the fade things, like the creeper? Like this is where you'd feel the vibe. I think you feel the vibes more from the audiobook we hear. It's like the voices are really whispery and creepy, and
yes, it's true.
Like oh.
You hear that, because they talk about that in the wilds as well. Like, you hear these things and you're not really sure where that's coming from or what that is. And that is something which, again, does not get explained. And we're just left to, not infer, but we're just left to wonder, like, what is truly. And I'm sorry, I seem distracted. I'm not distracted. I'm trying to look up the map because I just want to show something.
Because he meets one of his old friends, and I forget his name now, when he meets up with that big guy before he gets to Bones. Is it Joanne? Joanne, is it Joe?
Oh yeah, Ben of Six Cities and his other one, right.
Yeah. When we meet with them, and it's like, oh, long time no see, blah, blah, blah. And then he's on edge with it. He's like, well, no, I can hear them, and everyone else is like, no, they don't exist. And it was like, well, you thought demons didn't exist, and look what happened there. And then when that guy gets taken, and then I keep forgetting his name, the big guy just runs out, and I'm just like, why are you running towards them? They just snatched one of your people. Clearly, they're dangerous beings. Run the other way, and he runs right into the mist. And I'm like, oh my god! I thought it was going to be another one that was dead. But then he comes back just a little bit injured. But I was very unsure as to whether or not there was going to be long-lasting effects of that, because I didn't fully understand. Like, he ran in there, and then he ran back out, and then he was injured, and then they were trying to get him better, and then they're like, all of a sudden he was better. And I feel like in some way that was a bit of a pointless thing, unless there was something that happens to him as a result of that.
Yeah,
because it wasn't like a massive on tent hooks, like, is he alive, is he dead moment, because we literally just met him, so we didn't really have any attachment to him anyway. So I feel like, mostly because I don't trust any author that writes books that I read anymore, that might come back later on in the books. If it doesn't, I'm just confused as to why that was a thing. But I feel like the Fades might have put something inside him and he might end up changing. But again, that's probably just because I've read so many books where shit like that happens, and I don't trust authors, basically.
Nice.
Yeah.
True.
Welcome to my world of not knowing, just been waiting and bothering Rob. And he still doesn't answer. That's the worst part.
He's busy.
He is busy.
Why do evil bosses always leave their pictures to escape?
Because as Anders said, his dad didn't really want to kill him.
Yeah.
Yes.
He expected him to escape.
Also, when you're tied up to a pole and there are those laughing dogs, I mean, they just thought that they would be dead, because how do you escape that, when you're all tied up and everything? So, and it makes sense.
But it's still like, that's still traumatizing. It's like, well, you might get free, but had it not been for Henry, they would have been goners. So he couldn't have. His dad clearly didn't care either way. He didn't want to execute him because he was like, didn't want that on his conscience. But
in this case, I think also this again, because I've reread this book multiple times, I think Anders's father, Breckovich, the Niles Breckovich, who puts them over there, still loves Anders because Anders is his firstborn, and he doesn't really want to kill him. So he just wants to see, I mean. Yeah, maybe he knows, maybe, and again, this is just me extrapolating. I think he just wants Anders to maybe grow a spine and come back to him. And this is his way of traumatizing him enough to be like, this will maybe shake you back into coming back to me as my son and taking, your rightful place. That's just my theory. I could be wrong. But I feel like, that there's something going on because, as the Blooded are they're very ruthless. They could have just slit everybody's throat right there and there. They didn't have to, keep them over there.
Yeah.
So maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even Anders does say that as well, to be fair, part of that.
Yeah.
There's the same thing.
Yes. This is Rob J. Hayes' first published book. And yeah. first published trilogy.
I see this whole connecting things, and like I know that so for some David authors you can see that they are still really good, but it is their first book, and you know, whereas if I had not known that this was his first book, I would have assumed he was an established writer, just because of the way that, like Tuff just said, the way that everything's connected, it was so seamlessly, and the way that he pulls a reader in straight away, he knows exactly what to do to make you like someone who shouldn't really be all that likable, and the way that they can have darker sides, but because I'm a sucker for a friendship, and a lot of people are suckers for, like, you know, people banding together and like getting through the dark times together, like that side of it, all of it was, and this really like shines through when I felt the hurt when we found out what Bones had done. I was hurt by Bones.
Yeah.
In this, I wanted to tell him off and be like, yeah. I was like, why?
Yeah.
He's your friend, and this guy screwed you out of so much money. Clearly doesn't care. Was only going to do more money because he was found out.
Yeah.
And out of the goodness of his heart, was like, come on, we're going to do this together. I say the goodness of his heart, but like, we're going to do this together. We're going to get you some money back, and then you can support me. I'll support you as friends should. Like, let's do this together. And it's just like, I'll screw you over for an extra bit of money. Because this place that I've acquired, that he should have acquired anyway if he couldn't afford to do it. But that's
right. Another small pointer from that, you see that village, it always has that foggy thing, and he's kind of talking about sounds. That's apparently a clue for something in the future which might happen. I don't know what that is, but there's those creepy sounds and those wraiths as they're talking about.
Yeah,
there is something weird about that. And can I maybe share something? Can I share the world map, because I just wanted what I was trying to talk about it, and you also mentioned, and let's see if this works. Yes, I think this should be it. Can you all see this?
Yes.
So this is the world map which Rob had commissioned for his world. So for readers or viewers, the first book kind of starts out in Sarth, that's where we kind of see the city and everything. But this Color of Vengeance, this book is set entirely in the wilds. This is where we kind of we see they talk about Corral, they talk about, I think, one more Chain and everything. That's where the slave uprising happens, and everything almost entirely happens within here. But the thing is, Rob has kind of thought about all of this, and there's like, this was what I was talking about, the 12 book series, because there's a lot more things. Like if you see over here, there's something called Land of Dead. There's a reason why that's the case. There's what's happening in Southern Wilds, and then in the future books we'll also go to the Forgotten Empire and everything. So there's like these, and like you mentioned, Lisa, there's like these tie-ins where you kind of what was that mentioned? Like this quick line of something being mentioned, and then you're like, wait, what does that mean? Why what was it referencing and stuff like that? So this is this is why I've been obsessing about these books for so long.
I can understand why. Like, I do love a book where you can see, or a series, like, I don't care about long series. I know some people can't deal with long series, but if there's a purpose to it, if it's a series that's long for the sake of being long because they want to draw out a series, I'm like, absolutely not. No, just give me a trilogy and I'll be fine. But if it's like, you can tell like that this world has not been fully explored in the books that we've seen so far, and like Tufty mentions here, the groundwork has been laid early on for things that is even yet to be revealed. Like he says, the fog has been wearing away the wood, so they're changing all the wood to stone, and it costs money. So it's just like, how can fog do that? That's not normal fog, clearly. And they mention it's not normal fog, but then if that's not normal fog, then what is it? And if the wraiths won't come into that village, why? Like, what have they put around the village in order to stop the wraiths from going there? Like who's done that? How? I don't.
Like I'm saying, there's like a lot of background, and there's even one line about, there's somebody who tells, I'm forgetting this, there's a story about not Rin, somebody being buried, some god or something like that, being Theowin or something like that. I don't know if you folks caught that. There was like a small line about this creature, half Drurs, half something called Theorin or Theowin, and that was also just sneakily mentioned, and apparently that is leading on to something else. And this is what I was telling about the 12 books. So, there's this trilogy, then there's the Pirates duology, then there's a standalone book. Those are the 6 books which are published out right now. There's going to be another trilogy, and then there's going to be the final trilogy which finishes everything off.
Yeah.
And that's why there's a reason why that thing is called the Land of Dead. There's a reason why those Drur are hunted. There's a reason why. And did you folks catch a reference to something called the Dreadlords and something happening back in the past?
Yeah.
So apparently in maybe thousands of years ago, the dead rose and people had to fight to kill them, and that's why in that Land of the Dead, there's a walled off because the dead don't stay the dead, and that's why I think everybody's scared.
Yeah, they mentioned that a few times. The dead don't stay dead, aren't they?
Yeah,
and they burn the bodies because they're very, even in the wilds, and kind of worried of that happening. So that's like this is again purely my extrapolation from all the reading, that he's building up to something, like there are chess pieces being being put into pieces, and this is what we kind of get a major clue from with the epilogue of The Price of Faith, which, sorry again, I hope you and you get to read.
You tease it.
We're reading it soon.
Yes.
There's really potential to pull out all the threads we've missed in the first half. Yes, absolutely. This is a book.
I go back and do it physically.
Yeah, this is a series that I would gladly buy another edition of, just so I can have an edition that I just keep on my shelves, and one that I can like tab and annotate. Like, just because, like, if he ever does like hardbacks of this series or special editions of this series, I'll get them, keep them on my shelves. Fingers crossed. I would have messaged him and be like, "You need to do this Kickstarter." I would back it. And then I could like, I think I love series that can do that. Like, you could do that with Ryan Cahill series. Like, I could reread it and you could go back and you're like, I didn't notice this, I didn't notice this, I didn't, like, just the threads that are in, like, the impressive depth, particularly for a debut novelist. Exactly. This is just absolutely, and it makes you more invested in the characters. Like, when you know that an author has put this much time in it, because ever since self-publishing came around and became more popular, I feel like at one time people were just self-publishing because they could. There were certain, not everybody, but there were so many indie books that came out, and it was like, oh, anyone can publish now. You don't need, indie books become more. So but then some books I was reading, I was just like, this makes no sense.
Yeah, because they don't have an editor, or
some books need an editor. Like, some books need to be like maybe the author had a good idea, but they couldn't flesh it out. They need to be told, write this again. This needs to be. They need some authors. Yes, they do need professional help, which a traditional publisher can give them if you know.
Yeah, but then you get authors like Rob, who literally you could tell that they've sat down, they've mapped things out. Even from the beginning, like, they've genuinely thought about it, and you could tell the effort they put into it. And the fact that he's come back and redone the covers, and he'll revisit stuff like that. Like, you want to back those kinds of things, and it makes you more invested in the world and the characters and just everything. True. There were a couple of things that was just like, there was a bit of a misspell there, but it's fine. It's all right on the audiobook. The audiobook said it fine, so I can just,
you listen to it, it'll make sense.
I can ignore that. It's the same thing with when I read We Break Immortals by Thomas Howard Riley. There were some spelling mistakes in that, but
a big book. That's a really big book.
It is a big book, and there were quite a few spelling mistakes in that, but the overall experience is just like epic. So it's I mean, you can forgive those little things.
Can't you, though?
Yeah, you can forgive those little things for the fact that it's a bloody epic book and it's brilliant.
And who really wants to go back through a book that size and spell check?
No, I read it in 72 hours and I tabbed and annotated it as well. And honestly,
but you're a lunatic.
I am a lunatic. I don't know why I set myself that challenge, but it was like an experience. I'm crazy. But moving on to The Price of Faith, talking about The Price of Faith and how this book ended.
In a really fun way.
Swift gets what's coming to him. Bones gets unalived.
Mm-hmm.
Shows what happens when you betray your friends. You get undead. You get undeaded. You get deaded. You get killed. Oh,
Get undeaded.
you get undeaded. Well, he might be undead. Did they burn his body? We don't know. Is he going to come back as a weird? I don't know.
It's a weird thing. This is very.
His wife believes he's dead. His wife believes Beth. She believes that he's dead. So there's something.
But also the throat thing. Beth has a throat scar that she twice it's mentioned as a minimum.
Yeah.
That she shouldn't be alive. Like that was like a fatal injury. How is she alive? Is she undead? Is she alive? What's going on? Who is she? What is she? Why is she? That is the question. They are the questions.
So
really good healer.
Yes. And why is Bones so scared of it? That is another big question.
Ooh.
Also, him. Yes.
To squeeze on one more thing. Did you both miss Thanquil and Jezet? Because for me, like even though they were their characters, I didn't get to miss them because there's so much happening. But I just want to hear from what you both thought.
I did. Yeah.
I did. Yeah. I think I missed that. Like, although Blackthorn like bounces off the other characters, I think because Jezet and Thanquil are so different as well. Like they have different like wants and aspirations and stuff. I missed that because obviously Blackthorn, Henry they're very similar and they're just as like bloodthirsty as each other, and there's all this violence and stuff. But missing Jezet and Thanquil a bit, to be fair, just to like balance it out, really.
Yeah.
That was a surprising decision, though. Like, I can't imagine any writer like doing this. Like, I have a book. First book is got 3 good characters, and then I removed the 2 popular characters. I mean, not popular, but more popular characters, and just put like the 3rd most popular character, and then give him. But it worked. Like somehow it worked. At least for me, like I missed them, but I was like, okay, I still want to see what happens with Henry and Thorn.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Oh yeah. But I
definitely did miss them though.
It's one of them where I know that the next book follows Jezet and Thanquil.
Yes, Thanquil. Yeah, and it's kind of like the first 1/3 is parallel to this book, and then you do follow what Jezet and Thanquil are going to, and then again it's spoilerish, but then the latter 1/3 is beyond where this book goes. So it's and this book is parallel, and then the latter 1/3 is like the culmination of all the arcs for everybody.
So that sounds better to me, I think, because then I just missed knowing what they were doing. I liked having a whole book where we got to like know the characters from Thorn's point of view better, but now it's just kind of like, right, okay, so the 3rd book, they're going to have to catch up somewhere because we've obviously everything that's happened in this book, we need to kind of catch up in the other points of view and then tie it up.
Yeah.
And
I'm glad I did it this way though, because had he have tried to fit every perspective in this book, especially with the size that it was, I wouldn't have got the same depth into like. I don't think we'd have been able to get as attached to Anders, and we wouldn't have had the whole, But I do think that I did miss Thanquil and Jezet just because they were kind of becoming a little team, and like reluctantly they actually liked Thanquil, and it's like maybe he's not a bad person, even though he's an arbiter. And then they were kind of just like, again, a sucker for friendship and found family. Like it's just that whole vibe, and then the trauma at the end of book 1. I was just like. Wow. Everyone's been unalived, and I was, and then he was sort of left like, who's alive and who's dead and what's going on, and then we started book 2 thinking that Jezet and Thanquil are dead, and they think Jezet and Thanquil are dead, and I just think that when they all get together again, now that we've got Anders and Suzuko in there as well, like what is the dynamic going to be? Like how is Jezet going to take to Anders and Suzuko? Like it's a whole new dynamic in this team, but it works because, and I loved how it ended. That Dawn was kind of like, we are a crew, and maybe we just don't want to. We just want to switch the way that we do things. Are you on board? And it was like asking Anders to be part of the team, and just that whole. It's still dark. They're still in a really shitty place. It's still not a good place to live, but they're together.
Yeah,
and that's just
they're together.
We're all in this together.
There's a new team, yeah. No, it like you mentioned, the found family aspect of it, like you really got to see how they found each other and how they grew, and it kind of endears you to them. Like I was rooting for them, and I still rooting for them, but like I was like, now I want to know more. And like you mentioned, like now I also want to go back and see what's happening with Tankul and Jesset. But yeah, so
yeah. Jesset and Thankful were such great characters. I missed them too. They probably impacted on my overall score too. Yeah, but
fair.
Obviously we've got Anders who's a drunk. Thankful who likes to steal things. They've all got the cruxes, haven't they? But they just work. They just work well together, though. Like
they do.
My first experience, his experience was along the Razor's Edge, so I was already willing to read more of his work. I didn't need a huge rush to start reading the series, but I'm very glad I finally started. Well, I'm glad you're along for the journey, Tufty. And after this book, after Price of Faith, I would definitely be continuing on with more of his work because I need to know everything. I need to read everything that he's ever written. It's going to cost me a lot of money, but I don't care.
Yeah.
Did you both finish the Along the Razor's Edge books? Have you done?
I haven't seen anything. I've read any of them.
I read the first one. I need.
Oh, you read the first. Okay.
I haven't read any of them.
I want.
Lisa, you should
buy the hardbacks because they're so pretty.
I want the hardbacks too.
They are really pretty. I have them downstairs. I don't have them over here, but yeah.
They're expensive though.
Yeah, they are. I was literally just looking up how much, like whether any of his books are on Kindle Unlimited apart from like the first books and series.
Yeah.
And they're not really, which is sad.
Oh, he removed them? Did he remove them? I thought they were.
There's a few. There are a few on Kindle Unlimited. There's the whole Heroic Age trilogy.
Yeah, the Mortal Techniques. Yes.
I think all the Esker books are on there. God Eater's on there.
God Eater, yeah, I think it's getting released though in June. So I didn't know the first.
I want my editions of the God.
It's quite funny because you've got Herald is on Kindle Unlimited, Demon is on Kindle Unlimited, but Deathless is not.
But it's a different trilogy. It's a different trilogy. So there's that.
He's got 2 of the 3 new trilogies.
Well, it's all 3. So the thing with that is like it's all 3 are like trilogies. So it's going to be like all of them, like the Age of the God Eater, Annals of the God Eater, and Archive of the God Eater. Those are all all of them are 3 book ones. So you potentially can read all 3 of them, or you can just stick with one. The Herald book is like the main trilogy, which is like Annals of the God Eater.
Yeah.
And then I think everything else is just, I mean, not everything else. It's supposedly
world building.
Yes. Yeah. I'll to be fair to him, I'll say this. It does make sense. Like, if you read Herald, and then when you read the Demon and when you read Deathless, there's a lot more clarity about certain things. If you don't read it, you'll be fine. Like Herald will not be a diminished book because of not reading them. But when you read them, you're like,
yeah,
holy shit, there's something more going on.
I love it. I love a book that has Easter eggs, and I know that people have mixed views on like Cassie Clare books, but that's one of the reasons why I love her series, because there's like you'll read one of the more recent releases and something's been mentioned in previous books, and I'm just like, oh my god, and I just love it, like, and I just like I love little Easter eggs because it helps my brain your brain works while you read, and it's just the best experience.
Yeah,
I've only read
I will say, if you want to read the Esker books, Lisa, I'm pretty sure the whole series is on Kindle Unlimited.
Yeah, it is. And one more small tidbit to not inspire, but basically just to get you both to read. After you read book 4 of Esker, ask me something. I'll tell you a huge potential secret about Rob's.
It's really vague. Well, I know what the question is. I need to ask you.
Well, no, you all you got to do is just tell me you finished book 4. Then I can tell you.
Okay, that's fine.
I cannot tell you right now because it will. It won't ruin your read, but it will be. I don't know how it'll take away from some of the fun, so to speak. Maybe you will catch it on your own, and if you do catch it on your own, you'll be like, "Oh, holy shit, what's happening over here?" But if you did not, like I did not, I only caught something on my 3rd read. So which is why I was like, you both seem way more intelligent than me, so you'll probably catch it on the 1st read. But that's what I'm saying.
My friends would not say that about me.
No, Not
I
well
am
known.
probably the one of my friends that is like the last to pick things up in my group of friends, and they will all lovingly tell you that I'm a dense human being. But
You're a lovable one.
Too.
I will have a dedicated Rob J. Hayes shelf in my library once I acquire this triple trilogy set. I will have so many of his books.
Find room.
Yes.
I will end up having a dedicated Rob J. Hayes because obviously I've got the trilogy of trilogies, backed his Kickstarter. I'm not gonna back down on backing. Then I'm gonna back the next one that comes. He just needs to do a Kickstarter for hardbacks of those other series, just so I can buy them all in hardback. Because my one thing is like, if I buy one series from an author that I really love, I have to buy the rest of their books in hardback, which is why it annoys me that I can't get Sebastian de Castell's Greatcoat series in hardback. And it annoys me that every other book I have from him is hardback, and that series is paperback. I'm ridiculously annoyed. It's like, I don't know why, because it's just ridiculous. I'm annoyed at that, but that's just a bugbear. I'll never remember to ask you potential secret. We will ask for you, Tufty. How do we?
You can just ping me anytime. You can just ping me anytime. If you want to know, you just ping me. I'll DM it to you. But
that was very Kim Possible. Then call me, beat me if you want to reach me.
Put a note on the skim to the last if you're reading it on Kindle Limited, or like put a post-it note on the last page of the book. Like ping fantasy book, ping me here because you need to ask you what's going on. Find the secret.
Yeah,
but
ask what is the meaning of life.
Jesus, God, we could be all that.
42.
Well, I'll just say something. I'll just give a small hint. It's about teeth.
It's about teeth.
Yes, it's about teeth. And it'll make so much sense because when you read it and when you come upon it, it'll make so much more sense. But for now, it doesn't make any sense. But it's okay. It's not supposed to make sense. But I
don't have time to read all of his books, but I want to read all of his books now. And I'm just thinking, like, I can just get the Audible credits. I can just get them all on Audible because I will probably Audible listen to them. I'll listen to them anyway.
Well,
but I'm just like, I don't have the space in my TBR, and I need to stop thinking about it because I will do it.
What do you mean you don't have the space? You are the queen of making TBRs with like 30 books.
But it's Marvelathon this month, and I'm trying to read books that fit in the prompts. And then for the next 2 months, we've got other readathons I need to fit books into, and I could try and make
for doing that because I can never do readathons. It's just because I'm too harebrained to be like, I need to read this. I'm like, oh, this looks nice. That looks nice.
Posting a readathon.
This is the worry for next month because it's Magical Readathon, and I want to be a demonologist.
Oh.
And now I need to fit that book in somehow, which is
Which one is it?
Grace of Kings.
Because that's our next read.
Oh, the Ken Liu book. Yeah.
So.
And the release of the midnight editions, and I'm so happy. Sorry.
Oh, the broken binding ones, right? The broken binding.
Yeah.
When is it going to be revealed?
I don't know.
Can't remember. I'm sure they posted.
I missed out on the original editions, and now I can't buy them because they're too expensive. So maybe
keep a lookout on broken binding.
I don't think I'll get the I don't think I'll get the midnight editions as well because I'm not a subscriber. So I don't think they'll even reach the open general public phase. So I'll just
they always keep books for every phase.
We'll keep some back. Yeah.
They've already said multiple times that they will always keep some back for every tier that they sell to.
So then maybe I'll have to wake up at 5 a.m., get my laptop ready. That's because that's when they release it at 12 noon GMT, and it's like 4 a.m., or 5 a.m. in my time in PST.
This is the dedication of a bookworm.
I know. It's like sometimes I have to sleep in another room because I can't wake up an alarm and wake up my wife, at the same time. So I sleep in a different room, multiple alarms. And then once I slept through the alarm. So I was like, damn it. I missed it was Robert J. Bennett's Tainted Cup. I missed it because I woke up at like 15 minutes too late and it was all sold out, even in the general one. So I'm like,
See,
there were so many teeth references in this series.
Yes. So the Drew are mentioned to be having they look like humans, but when they smile, they have a lot more teeth. and that's how I'll just keep
It's
quiet about it.
creepy as hell.
Readathons are too stressful. I cannot cope with them.
They are stressful.
Wait, you have the dandelion dinner still lined up next. Oh no, they're so chunky. Chunked.
They
It's
are
fine. It's fine. Just get the audio.
super but
Do you
even the
wanna-
audio is big. It's like 30,
I
40 hours plus, if I'm not wrong.
I was about to say, I dread to think how long
Right?
those audiobooks are going to be. Because the first book is, like, I would say a normal size, I think. Maybe 500 pages. Yeah, the first one's not that massive.
It's
It's
thick,
not. It's... I'm going to check. I'm sure it's fine. Ow.
I was going to say, well,
That's
Oh.
not chunky.
though. Whoa.
That's normal.
Okay, so the first Grace of Kings is 21 hours. Wall of Storms book 2 is 28 hours.
It's only 618 pages.
Only it's only fantasy readers, like us, who'll be like, oh, it's only 600 pages. And you're like,
600 pages.
That's normal.
It's about like 3 weeks worth of reading for me if I can sit still that long. But anyways,
You're right, Chelsea. Though the books 3 and 4 in the audio versions, they're 38 and 41 hours long, and book 2 is 28 hours. So yeah, they do get massive.
they get very chunky.
Yeah, but they're very popular.
Mm.
Like they're one of those series.
Yeah, I'm hoping that I enjoy them.
Me
Because
too.
I've heard
because
so
these
many good
books are very
things.
pretty.
There's so many good things. But, well, we can't ask Mahia what we think is going to happen because Mahia knows. But, Chels, do you have any predictions of what's going to happen in The Price of Fear?
Not a bloody clue. Anything can happen. Obviously we're going to see Jezza and Thankwell again.
So excited.
But obviously we left Jezza walking out of the prison in a coat, and then I can't really remember what happened to Thankwell. But obviously they've both got out somewhere. So I'm kind of like, well, what's the end game here, guys? Where are we going? Do they know that Thor
Avengers Assemble, Dark World style. Like, the Grim Dark Avengers. They're going to get together and beat the big bad is what they're going to do. Jezza, Thankwell, Anders, Susko, Thorn. Going to get together. Henry. Sorry, can't forget Henry. I'm just going to kick some villain ass in book 3 is what they're going to do.
But who is the villain now? Apart from Keswick.
Jacob Lee.
Jacob Lee. No, I think he's just a little bit unhinged. Like, I don't really think he's like
maybe Walmart.
bound enough to be the big bad, you know?
The God Emperor might be the big bad.
God Emperor, yeah. Maybe Jacob is the God Emperor. Dun dun dun. Wouldn't that be an interesting twist?
Maybe this Pirate King.
Mm-hmm.
You can't be a king and an emperor. That's contradictory.
maybe he's actually a bad guy. Maybe. And then Anders is like, I do owe you my life, but these are my friends. And friends trump that, and I'm gonna fight you against them. And this is just me pretending that everything's gonna work out fine. I think somebody I like's gonna die.
Yeah.
I think someone I like's gonna die. For Scotland! I think someone I like's gonna die.
I'll just say this. I have cursed Rob even more after I finish The Price of Faith. I'll just say this. This was one of the books which had me cursing him even more.
I predict Lisa's gonna cry.
I cried.
She just might.
I cried reading about Henry's rape and being like, I was just devastated for her because I actually love her as a person. And she's savage, but you just want to protect her because she's been through a lot of shit. And I was just like tearing up, and I was just like, I want to kill Swift for you. I will go purposely stab him in the eyeball because he's a horrible person.
He is.
And I feel like I'm attached to all of them now, even though Anders was very annoying to begin with, and he's a drunk.
Very easily.
But they just need a hug. All of them just need hugs. Can we just before we finish, the fact that Henry and Dawn hugged were just like, and it wasn't something that they did before, and I was just like, I was just so excited. I was just really excited.
No idea.
Well, you have to ask Anders about that stuff. That
We
man
shall
is
find out.
so
Yeah. Yeah. I was stressed because like I said, I don't trust authors. And whenever I get attached to people in things I enjoy, which is very often, somebody I like gets unalived. And I don't think there's sometimes in a band of people.
It's to make you feel things.
No, but sometimes in a band of people, when like a side character comes in, I'm like, well, I don't care if they get unalived. Like, when the guy that I can't remember his name, the big guy, I can't want to call him Joanne, but it's not his name.
Yeah, it's Joanne. Who was it?
Is it Joanne?
There was Big Hand Joanne. I'm pretty sure.
Big Hand, yeah.
Heavy Handed Joanne. Something
yeah,
like
that. So him, he seems like a nice guy, but we don't really know him that well. So if he got unalived, I wouldn't care. But none of our main guys now can be unalived.
Well, they
can. They can, because Rob J. Hayes will have a very stern message from me, being like, you need to rewrite this.
But if he's anything like Jay Kristoff, he will thrive. Because Kristoff thrives on that shit.
Yeah. Rob does, because to this day, I have not forgiven him for what he did in The Price of Fate. And he knows
you're going to cry. Just pack tissue. You'll be all right.
He's all not happy about it, but he says that that was exactly what he intended to do. So he's happy about the fact that what his intentions were and how the book turned out to be the same way.
I get it. Not everyone can have a happy ending. And I totally understand. But I am a sucker for a happy ending. And if they don't all skip it to the sunset together, Robert will be getting a message from me.
Please do. Because he needs more messages from angry
Sir, excuse me. How very dare you? Is that a technical term when alive? Yes, it is.
Yeah, because sometimes you get censored for saying dead.
Really?
Yeah. Everywhere.
What platform you're on? Yeah.
Yeah, that's why people do like when they spell it, it's like D and then the @ sign for the A instead of spelling it as a roll. Or it's the same with like all of those words. Like here's me getting this video banned, like suicide and
self-harm, things like that.
Stuff like that. That kind of like people unfortunately make content about on different platforms with the idea of like kind of encouraging it or glorifying it.
Okay, I see what you mean. But even though it's not in that context over here, but they do a blanket
they just have like blanket words that they're just like, nope, not today, Satan.
It's always these few idiots who spoil it for everyone, like
Oh yeah, 100%. But it's just one of those things. It's just more fun to sit unalived. It just feels less serious.
It's fantasy, right? It's fantasy. Unalived makes more sense in the fantasy genre than any other genre, so to speak.
It makes sense. Yeah. Like you're either alive or you're not, so you're unalived.
Yeah.
Unless you are undead.
Mm-hmm.
That's a whole separate set of people, of which I'm feeling like we're going to meet some undead people or some people that were unalived that were technically not unalived but were somehow alived again.
Resurrected.
For some reason. Yeah. The resurrection trope. I don't know. I still want to know why Bones' wife is alive. She shouldn't be because of the
throat.
The throat thing. It's a fun word. I know precisely what you mean. Unalived.
Glad we explained it concisely and clearly.
There's unalived. There's dead. Because you have to say dead in fantasy because you can be dead but not dead.
Oh yeah, we discovered this when we were reading what was it called?
Ruin of Kings.
That's it. And you were either dead, but you weren't dead. You had to be dead. No one really was dead because everyone was just dead and then undead. And it was just a constant.
Which book?
Pretty much sums up that series.
Yeah, the Ruin of Kings. The books that start with the Ruin of Kings. Yeah, the resurrection trope was used a lot in that.
Strong in that one.
Yeah.
To the point where I'm pretty sure Lisa maybe cried in like the first or the second book, and then by the time we got to the end, she'd given up. Yeah. Yeah. It was that many resurrections. I was like, okay,
I don't trust you now.
Yeah, because
Mhm.
no one
Genuinely.
was dead. Everyone was alive.
The job is done. It's not done. It's
Not
done.
done.
I love
Partially
it.
done.
But are you going to be joining us again next month, Mahia, for the last book?
Yes,
You have to.
absolutely. If you
Yes.
ladies will have me, I'll be very much happy to come because I want to see, Lisa, now what you think of The Price of Fate. And Chelsea, I want to see your reaction to it, what happens at the end of Price of Fate.
You want to know that I've cried?
Well,
You want to see if I've actually rated
yes.
something 5 stars?
Yes, and also I want to see both your reactions to the epilogue. Like, how did you think, or what do you think about when you read the epilogue? So that's why it's.
I have it on my Audible. I feel like I need to read it now, but it's too early because we've got another month yet. So.
Oh, I had to press pause so fast because I was listening to it at work, and then all of a sudden the epilogue was done, and then it was like the price of faith, and I was like, shit, no.
I love it. But thank you, Tufty, once again for being the commenter of the show and for joining in the conversation. Thank you, Mahia, for making this conversation a well-rounded. And I love the little insights, the fact that the law and you're an experienced Rob J. Hayes reader. You're Rob J. Hayes, Rob J. Hazer.
Kind enough to not call me crazy, so I'm glad for that.
Thanks you all. And we will see you all next month on Chelsea's channel.
Yay.
When we have a date. The last book. And the lovely Mahia will also be here, and we'll probably have Tufty in the comments cheering us on and having a great conversation. So thank you all, and we will see you all in a month's time.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.